What's up, everyone? I feel like it's been a minute since I've done one of these shows. Um, kind of just got away from me, to be honest. It started with there were a couple of weeks where there wasn't much going on in terms of six skill news. So I took a little bit of a break from the shows. The reviews have been dropping, but I figured I'd take a break from the shows, period. And then, life just got in the way. So I was also looking at kind of not rebranding, right? The channel's going to stay pretty much the same, but this news show, Fridays weren't working. So we're going to, for now, try to drop these on Monday morning. So hopefully this will be the first of kind of the newly scheduled ones. I figure start the week by going over recapping the rest of the week instead of doing it on Friday. Um, we'll see how it pans out. And I'm also going to give this show a name, right? Not really anything crazy, just a rundown, just so that I can call it something as opposed to just having a date. Again, we'll see. All this is flexible. I am working on getting a new camera because, like you could see, this is just the camera that comes with the computer. So hopefully I'll get something a little bit better. And I am trying some new software. So if doesn't work out, this is just the first one. So we'll iron out all the kinks. But look, there's been a ton going on in the six scale world, right? So I'm gonna try to make these not be terribly long, but this one, as the relaunch inaugural one, will probably be a little longer. Obviously, we've got a lot of goodies from Hot Toys to discuss. Damn Toys has some goodies too. Third Party dropped some surprises this week as well. And then we're just going to go back into a couple of things, right? And we're just going to go into figure talk. I'll give you just a heads up of what's coming into the channel as well. And then depending on how this pans out, obviously we're going into Thanksgiving. So is Hot Toys or any other company going to drop some goodies before the break? Hopefully. If not, I think it'll be a lighter week, but we'll still recap on the following Monday, and we'll just see what happens, right? Obviously, Sideshow has this buy one get something free, and right now the current deal is the Mandalorian with the child, which I am going to get into a little bit because I don't own a Mandalorian. I wasn't as crazy about that Star Wars show as other people were, but look, we're going to get into it a little bit. So, without further ado, just because there is a lot I want to discuss, let's go into the first, and I'm going to go in order, right? We're going to go no particular order. It's going to be kind of like, is it older to or newer to older? But let's start with this one. And I don't think you guys are going to be surprised. We're going to get into the tease first, second, but Hot Toys had teased that they were going to do these Rebel figures, which was something that I think some of us were hoping for, but was a little unexpected. By this point, you've seen a lot of people discuss this. My opinion, this is an amazing looking figure. I when we saw the teaser, this was one of the ones that I was probably less excited for, just because it was a simpler figure, right? It's her in civilian clothes, X-23, jeans, boots, right, t-shirt. The sunglasses are a nice touch, very movie appropriate. I like the little horse that's attached to her backpack. But it was supposed to be, or at least I thought it was going to be, one of the simpler releases we got. And the fact that Hot Toys already knocked this one out of the park, because they did, right? Let's not mince words. This is an amazing looking figure, right? The likeness to Daphne Keene, pretty amazing. Hot Toys has mastered the sculpted hair stuff now, right? You can kind of see the strands of hair. And you do have a couple of these that are, um, that we've seen before with sort of the dynamic looking hair. They've done this great job with them. We've seen them doing the Artisan, right? The Joker just dropped Artisan, which is an amazing figure. But when it comes to sculpted hair, Hot Toys is king at this point, right? What they're doing, allowing you to get some posability and also allowing it to look amazingly lifelike, is pretty impressive. And then when you look at the sculpt itself, I mean, let's zoom in a little bit to try to look at the sculpt. I mean, I've said this repeatedly, and I think it continues to be the case with Hot Toys. Now that every figure is essentially coming with the rolling eye system, they've really mastered that as well. There used to be kind of a more sunken in look to the sculpts that we're not really seeing anymore. The realism here is pretty amazing. Again, the hair looks great. You're getting the dual claws, and I think there's a picture that shows the foot claws as well. So you're getting the X-23 that we saw from the Logan movie, and obviously from Deadpool and Wolverine, which was a huge hit. I do like that you're getting those very childlike sunglasses because again, just goes with the character and with the story that we were getting, essentially carrying on from the tail end of Logan into Deadpool and Wolverine. And while Deadpool and Wolverine was a very funny, very good movie, right? It still kind of carried some of those paths and some of those little um, strands from Logan, where there is that emotional impact between X-23 and Wolverine. So I thought that was amazing. Again, it's a simple figure in terms of the clothing set. I do like the splayed out hands with the blades. I don't know if these are metal. It doesn't look like they are. They would have called those out. Again, the sculpt is phenomenal. I really can't say that enough, right? And it even has she has a small scar on her forehead, even captures that. So Hot Toys did a great job. Scale wise, she is smaller than Wolverine, so I think this is properly scaled, and this looks great to be honest. Um, and Hot Toys is paying attention, and you do get obviously the separate rolling eye systems, which look fantastic. While I do say that Hot Toys has mastered this, the one headache I always have is, and it depends on the peg for the neck. I feel like any little tap, you tend to get eyes that aren't necessarily the best. Or like what I mean by that is if you sock it in the neck, it'll touch the pegs that control the eyes. So all of a sudden, you do run the risk of having eyes slightly misaligned, which looks wacky. So you have to be very careful with the system. I try not to play with it too much unless I absolutely have to, just because I'm afraid I'm never going to be able to get them aligned again. But it's just something to keep in mind. And then as far as the hair, you do get swappable hair pieces, like what they did with Wanda from Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, where she does have this more dynamic, messed up bit of hair for kind of that final fight sequence, and then a more just straight looking hairpiece. So um, that's pretty interesting. And then again, you do get the interchangeable hands with the claws, and you do get the boots with the detachable claws. This is why I don't know, and I'd have to correct me if anybody knows. I don't know that these are metal. I think they would have called those out here, and they're not. But look, you're getting that distinctiveness X-23 look, right? And those boots, they look pretty good. Again, for a figure that could be deceptively simple, Hot Toys is really doing a great job here. And then I'm a sucker for diorama bases. I am. I like the flame effects that you're getting here, right? That adds a little something extra. And then the fact that you're getting the Juggernaut helmet from that pivotal scene in the movie, that's a great accessory to have here. So as far as figures concerned, look, the likeness is phenomenal. I do expect some degradation and some softening before we get the final product, but if they can even hit 90% of this, which Hot Toys has been doing lately, where it's going to be one of those amazing sculpts in hand. I like the swappable hair, the fact that you get the more straight hair versus the dynamic looking piece. The accessories are to be expected, right? The backpack, the sunglasses, the claws, that's kind of standard. And then it's really this Juggernaut helmet and then the diorama piece. So it's an amazing release. And I like the fact that they already released it, because to me, one of the things that you also have to be cautious with when it comes to Hot Toys is um, there's this feeling at times that they're not necessarily going to do everything. And that even though they've teased that you're going to get um, some of these figures, we've seen them not carry through, right? We've seen that with the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 line. So the fact that we got that teaser image and we're already getting the first figure, first of all, the movie was a huge hit financially and critically. So it shouldn't surprise us at all that X-23 is here, and that Hot Toys is going as deep in the line as they been doing with the Ahsoka line or some of the other Marvel lines. So very exciting. And while we're talking about this, um, let's share that image that Hot Toys had given us originally, which was, let me find that teaser image. Because again, right, yes, Hot Toys, we're already seeing kind of that first image right there. Um, the first release, which is this X-23, but we have at least 3 more figures incoming, right? Um, Although third party did throw a little wrench into the plans, I think, which we're also going to get into. But look, you've got the Jennifer Garner Elektra, which was a welcome surprise in the sense that it's another Elektra, and other than I forget the actress's name, but the actress who portrayed Elektra in the Daredevil series, right? These are the only two characters that have played the role. So to get Jennifer Garner and another Elektra from Hot Toys, that to me is a must. And again, when you look at the figures kind of going from Elektra, X-23, Gambit, and Blade, you weren't necessarily expecting the most amazing figures. And what I mean by that is they should be very basic, right? X-23, very simple. Elektra has a leather suit on, right, with the size, and that's pretty much it. Gambit is probably one of the more dynamic ones with the more comic accurate look, the staff, and the playing cards, which Hot Toys is going to give you some kind of an effect piece for. And then Blade, obviously being Blade, just the wow factor, right? You're going to get the older looking Wesley Snipes. He's got that very different looking suit overall. And instead of having a long sword, he has kind of this machete. Um, the only thing that I would maybe see them throwing in, he does have that big rocket launcher that he uses at the end of the movie. So it could be an added accessory just to get something from that series. But the point being, X-23 was going to be very simple in civilian clothing. And the fact that Hot Toys already knocked that one out of the park by doing such a great looking figure really, really impresses, right? It really gives you at least an idea of how the rest of the figures in the line are going to go. So look, um, what are the expectations at this point? Is it who's next? Um, my friend Fabs over at Fabs Figures had thought that maybe um, we were going to get them in the order that they're shown here: Elektra, X-23, Gambit, and Blade. I do think Blade is going to be the final one because I think that's the one that's the character that got the biggest pop, at least in the movie theaters when I saw the movies, and it just seemed like everybody was talking about Blade. Gambit too, although it was played a little bit for laughs, but I think that was the other character that people were expecting. Elektra, not so much, right? So my expectation is probably Elektra next, and then they're going to save the two big ones for last, right? Gambit and Blade, just so that they get the two simpler figures out of the way first, and then finish up with the two very popular ones. But I think they're definitely coming. And not only that, right? Um, I don't think this is it for the line from Hot Toys at all, right? The fact that we're getting these four is amazing as it is, right? They're going deep. But the one that they're not teasing here, that I really do have an expectation that would be more than likely to get is the Chris Evans Johnny Storm. First of all, his cameo, besides Blades, probably got the biggest pop in movie theaters as well, right? Those two really, people were just amazed. And then when he got revealed as Johnny Storm as opposed to Captain America, people were laughing. It was just a great moment. So Hot Toys has already done Chris Evans before. We've got tons of Captain America figures, and was it Present Toys? No, Premier Toys. This is where third party is interesting. Premier Toys had already dropped a pre-order for the Chris Evans Johnny Storm from the Fantastic Four movies. It came out of nowhere. No one was expecting it. And to date, we haven't gotten any of the other Fantastic Four, right? We haven't got Mr. Fantastic. You haven't gotten the Jessica Alba Sue Storm, or you haven't gotten the Thing. They teased that they were potentially going to do them, but they started with Johnny Storm. So does that mean that they had kind of anticipated or knew that the movie was going to have that? Maybe. But sometimes if you pay attention to third party, depending on the company, you might get an idea for figures that are about to come. Take in case Present Toys with the Ghostbusters figures, right? They dropped all four, and then what do we have now? Blitzway is about to relaunch. It doesn't always mean that that's the case, but these companies do kind of hear things through the grapevine. So I wouldn't be surprised if they had anticipated, one, that the movie was coming, and two, that something was being developed in one of the factories. That's just conjecture on my part. I may be completely wrong, so don't take that to the bank at all. But I do have a feeling that with how popular Chris Evans was from that movie, and the fact that he's been willing to sign off on his likeness before, we're going to get a Johnny Storm Chris Evans figure from Deadpool and Wolverine. And then, of course, I've got to be honest, right? That does bring us to the variants. So one of the things that I was always curious about was, and I was always sure of, was we're going to get some variants, right? We've already gotten Lady Pool. We got Kid Pool. We got Baby Pool and Dog Pool and Head Pool, right? Those are already established. Now we're getting the Rebels. So for me, it was which variants of uh, Deadpool and Wolverine are we going to get? I think it's a given that we're going to get the Wolverine in the brown suit. It's a pretty simple, I think, mod from the current version that they have, and I think it's one of those iconic moments where he's taking on the Hulk. So I think that's definitely a give me. The other ones I'm not so sure about, but I think that one would definitely come. And then one of the ones that we've been mentioning from the final fight scene as one of the variants. Well, two of them. One of them is Nice Pool, right? And one of them is the Cowboy, which those were the obviously Nice Pool actually has a lot of screen time. Um, Cowboy Pool has probably more of a glorified cameo, but if they did Lady Pool, Cowboy Pool would have probably been the next variant that has the most screen time after her. So that was to be expected. So look, we've already seen Hot Toys tease the battle damaged second Deadpool. Shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody, right? I think we've been expecting it. The popularity when the movie came out, and we finally realized that he wears the endoskeleton, the exoskeleton, or sorry, the adamantium skeleton um, for that battle sequence with the TVA. Some third party companies have already done some customs of those, but obviously Hot Toys is jumping in and they're giving that to us, right? We've seen Ryan Reynolds unbox it. Looks very similar, just damaged, and then we're getting a Ryan Reynolds unmasked Deadpool head, right? The fact that we're getting that, to me, first of all, says Ryan Reynolds has no problem giving out his likeness for the full figure. So which makes more sense, right? At this point, I think it's to get a nice pool, right, and get that variant armor that looks really sleek, and obviously the full face, the full Ryan Reynolds face with the hairstyle. Could that be an artisan? Maybe, right? It's a full. I could easily see Hot Toys doing that as an artisan, and then Cowboy Pool. And the reason I bring Cowboy Pool is, and we're going to jump a little bit, but since we're staying on this trend with Deadpool and Wolverine, let's see. We got a third party announcement from Flashpoint Toys. And let's see, where is that? Did I lose it? No, right here. So from Flashpoint Toys, we're getting the Cowboy variant. Um, it's Cowboy Deadpool, right? Look, I have some experience with Flashpoint. I got their Valkyrie figure from, I think it was either Avengers. Uh, it didn't have the braid, so I think it was from Avengers Endgame. And they did have the horse too, which I didn't get because it was way too big. The figure was fine; it was decent. The sculpt, not the best. And now they're also doing the Ghost from Ant-Man and the Wasp, from the Ant-Man and the Wasp movie, which I always thought was a miss by Hot Toys not doing it. But I guess there wasn't a demand for the character. But they finally now released it. Again, the sculpt doesn't look like the best, but you do get a mask sculpt, which I think it looks like it's cut straight from the screen. So the point I'm trying to make is Flashpoint is probably, listen, it's not one of the best third party companies, but it's passable. So when I see this, it's not bad, right? It's obviously you could see the mask. It's not the same because I have my Deadpool that I'm going to do the review for. It's clearly not the same kind of stylized quality. It's a little rougher, right? The hat molded on, but the rest of the figure, right? You do get that vest, you do get the gun belt, and I like that they have the Deadpool logos on it too, on the clips. The revolvers look fine. He's got the Deadpool logo on the belt too with the holsters. What I didn't remember, and I have to go back and watch the movie. I didn't know that he wore jeans. I think it's cool, right? Again, it's a variant, so I think that's a pretty cool option as well. Looks super posable. Uh, it's a variant. It's right. It's a variant that had minimal screen time, but it's one of those that definitely sticks with you. And I think what I'm seeing here from Flashpoint looks pretty decent. Um, Even the boots, right? And you'll see it in kind of the consolidated picture that the boots do have the spurs on as well. You can wear the bandana. There's just so much here to like for a third party company. And I've said it before, this is where third party excels, right? Filling the gaps that Hot Toys or other companies aren't going to do. Um, and look, as a pre-order bonus, they're also doing the bone claws. I'm not as crazy about this right now just because I know Hot Toys is going to be making that and releasing that with their next Deadpool figure. So that's the only reason why I'm not um, super excited about this just because I'm gonna get that figure and I'm already gonna get these accessories as a part of it. But look, other than that, very simple figure, right? The only accessories you're getting are a couple of hands, and you're getting the revolvers, and then the rest is really the figure itself. The boots do have the spurs, which I think is a nice detail, and you do get the bandana, which I think makes him look great. And I actually think bringing it up gives you a much more interesting look for a variant. So the question now becomes, look, and I think this is pretty cheap. I think it's definitely less than $200. Um, the question for me is Flashpoint Toys trying to do this to beat Hot Toys to the punch, right? Because that could very much be a possibility. We've seen other companies do that, uh, but we haven't seen Flashpoint necessarily tackle figures that Hot Toys has done. Um, I might be wrong about that, so if I am, please feel free to correct me. But when I look at what they've done, particularly when it relates to Marvel, and obviously they've done a bunch of Spider-Man figures too, right? But when you look at Valkyrie, you look at Ghost, right? They specifically targeted figures that haven't been done by anybody and nobody's touched at this point. So the question then becomes, is do they realize, based on what Hot Toys is doing, because we're getting the four Rebels, right? At least at this point, there's definitely a second Deadpool coming that we know of, which Reynolds already unboxed. So the question is, are they already aware of something that Hot Toys isn't going to jump into this, and that's why they're jumping into releasing this? That's a possibility, right? Or is this just a case of them trying to beat Hot Toys to the punch, saying, listen, let's get it out. Even if we get a couple of sales, we'll get some money. And then, it's a viable alternative, especially if you don't want to spend what Hot Toys is going to cost, right? For a variant figure that only had a couple of seconds of screen time. Now, for me personally, if Hot Toys were to make one, I'd want to go with the Hot Toys, right? That's just me personally. That's not me saying that you should do the same. But that's just me. I always prefer to gravitate towards the licensed product, and Hot Toys does overall make superior products to the third parties. That just goes without saying. So if I had the opportunity to get a Hot Toys version, that one would win out. But for me now, is Hot Toys even going to tackle this, right? We've seen no indication that they will. We know that they're tackling the Rebels. We know they're doing X-23 and all the other characters. We're assuming that there might be an opportunity for other characters, but are they going to do the cowboy, right? Or was it just too small an amount of screen time to warrant a figure like that? And that's where my conundrum is. I have a bit of a conundrum, because it's, do I order this, potentially lose out on an NRD, and then wait, Hot Toys releases theirs, or do I not order this and then Hot Toys never releases it and I miss my chance on having it? So it's just something I have to work through. Right now, I'll be honest, my inclination is definitely to order this figure a little bit. Um, and if Hot Toys does release it, then I'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But it looks great. It looks very simple, not much to it. And I do appreciate the fact that it's a mass sculpt. Probably means that Flashpoint is going to do a decent job with this, right? They're not trying to imitate a likeness or anything at that point. So, I think there's a good possibility this is going to turn out as a pretty decent third party figure. So again, right, that one came out of nowhere, very exciting. Obviously, Deadpool and Wolverine getting a ton of love at this point, as it should. It was a great movie, and it was a great addition to the MCU, especially after some not so well received um, kind of pieces. So that's fine. We're gonna go back to Marvel in a little bit because I do want to look at the trailers that they released. But Hot Toys also did release this character, Jinx from Arcane League of Legends. So look, I have no idea who this was, or I had no idea who this was. Obviously, I did a little research before jumping on to do these. But one of the things that I did watch was the trailer for this show. This is a show on Netflix. It is part of the League of Legends world, but it's not the game version, right? It is an anime or an animated series based on that world. Very steampunk. If you watch the trailer, it has that steampunk feel to it. Very you know old medieval kind of mixed with your modern. I've always thought that style was very interesting. Um, I haven't watched the show, but the trailer definitely hooked me, so I'll be looking to watch. Um, It looks so good, and I've seen, like, on social media, a lot of people are praising it as a great story. So I I I have a feeling that if this one is good, I might be inclined to add this to the collection. Again, not knowing anything about the character, all I can say is looking at the pictures, what you're getting, and first of all, you're getting two very different sculpts, right? You're getting this very stoic, very serious look, and then you've got this one that looks, I don't want to say crazed, but definitely like somebody that's having a little too much fun killing people potentially. Um, Again, the accessories are just pretty interesting, right? This shark, I guess rocket launcher of sorts, this Gatling gun type weapon. Um, the look is pretty simple. I do think the hair, the sculpted braids look pretty phenomenal, right? That's definitely a great detail. The weapons look great. Um, I don't know what to tell you about this figure other than there's just something slightly bizarre to it. Um, like even that bandage right on her leg that just looks over exaggerated. I really have to watch the show because I think the show is going to dictate whether or not I pick this one up. Um, and then again, based on the popularity of the show, we'll see if Hot Toys does anything else. But it's an interesting one, and I do appreciate when Hot Toys does these random figures, random releases. Listen, even I get tired of the next Iron Man, and it's like, yeah, I'm gonna pick up a Tony Stark. I'm not gonna pass. And for those Star Wars collectors of you, when you keep getting announcements of new clone troopers or new trooper variants, um, right? I'm sure even though you're gonna pick them up because you like that line and that's your line that you're collecting, sometimes it gets a little like, okay, here we are, it's another trooper, right? Just like here we are, it's another Iron Man. Uh, so to get a character like this that's so well done and so different, right? This is similar to those One Piece figures that Hot Toys put out, which I'm not going to pick up. I tried watching that show, not for me. But I appreciate when Hot Toys does those random one-offs. And this looks like a very interesting one-off, right? This is one of those that just immediately visually grabs you. Um, right, the look again, the eyes, and just the weaponry is very very appealing, right? Especially if you just want something that visually is going to pop in your collection. For me, again, one, I want to watch the show. If the show's good, it's going to make this very appealing, and two, it's the same thing that I've said with some of the other animated characters we've gotten, right? Like I passed on all the Marvel ones. Now, granted, the animation on that one was a little bit different, the What If ones. Um, and I passed on the Spider Verse ones just because there was a lot there. Um, I don't know. For some reason, I was able to draw the line on this one, but this one is very unique looking to the point where I'm very interested. The question is just where does this fit in a collection that leans heavily towards Marvel, heavily towards science fiction and action. I do have that Gangster's Kingdom line, which is kind of its own unique thing. But besides that, it's all movie based, TV based. Um, there's very little animated based in the collection. So this is one of those that I have to find a home for. And the collection that's getting a little or a lot out of control, and I'm still waiting for my Maja cases, right? I just don't know. But look, if you've watched the show, let me know if you think it's worth watching, right? Because I have a bunch of other things. I'm catching up on The Penguin right now, which is another fantastic show. I would love for Hot Toys to do their own version of Oswald Cobblepot from that show to go along with the Batman figure. Who knows if they'll do it, but it'd be awesome. I know Mars Toys has already done theirs, but I'd rather wait for Hot Toys at this point, just because there's so much else on the market. So, and you'll see as we go through, right? There's a ton of other things, um, and one of the things that you'll see as we go in, even into third party, is when you have a figure like this and a third party figure, unless the third party really speaks to you or is done really well, some of them are going to be very easy to pass on, right? Even though they could fill some gaps in the collection. But and this is a great figure. I just don't know what it's from, and I need to do a little bit more research. But I like that Hot Toys is broadening, out from Marvel, DC. For anybody who complains that it's just more of the same from Hot Toys, this is a clear sign. Listen, They may do a lot and may lean heavily on those IPs, but they also do very unique things here and there, right? So that can definitely be appreciated. But they also do, like I say, lean heavily on those older IPs. So what was the other announcement, which I didn't get to discuss? I'm sure I'm going to discuss it when I stream with my buddies. Again, it's the Bat Missile. Look, obviously there were a lot of jokes made about the shape. Um, yeah, I don't need to go into those, right? Um, but look, let's start with the first thing. This came out of nowhere, right? We've been, if you've been following the community, especially people that are really deep in the community a lot, obviously Jazz Inc. has been controlling the six scale vehicle market at this point, right? Blitzway seems to be resurrecting from the dead at this point, and there was a rumor that they're going to do a six scale DeLorean. So very curious about that. But then again, Hot Toys as well, right? Hot Toys has been doing six scale vehicles in terms of smaller pieces, right? They did the Bat Cycle from the Batman with Pattinson, right? They didn't do the 22 Batmobile. They re-released the 1989 Batmobile, but it was essentially that. It was just a re-release. They didn't improve anything. They didn't do anything to that vehicle. So it was just a straight re-release, which it's fine, right? I thought the vehicle, especially at the price point, was very decent. And I'm still looking to pick one of those up. Um, but there've been a lot of talk. Obviously, it's expensive to do a six scale vehicle. Obviously, is the money even there? Now, look, um, they dropped the Batman Returns 2.0 figure, right, which looks fantastic, right? Definitely a lot of good upgrades on that one. And that's where people thought it was going to end. Obviously, we're still having this ongoing debate. We know Jazz Inc. is making the Catwoman, the Michelle Pfeiffer Catwoman, and apparently the Penguin for a very, very high price, at least if you want to go all in. So the question is Hot Toys going to do their own versions? Because, look, say what you will forget about the competition between Hot Toys and InArt or Hot Toys and Jazz Inc. or any of these companies. The one surprising thing is Warner Brothers will give the license to anybody, because we saw, let's take the Heath Ledger Joker, which I love the character, but I'm almost tired of how many versions we're getting. Especially it's the same thing. Yes, I get it. It's an improved version, but everybody's doing it. Right. InArt launched their six scale line with the Joker. Hot Toys launched their artisan line with the Joker and with Anakin, but with the Joker. J&D's Kojin Works launched with a Joker. So it almost feels like every company is getting their hands into Warner Brothers. And obviously Jazz Inc., to their credit, tackled a character nobody's ever made, right? Because had they done their own version of the Joker, I do appreciate it, and I do give them credit for that. But Warner Brothers gives the license to everybody. So at this point, I don't think it would be a surprise to anybody if Hot Toys drops an announcement for their own version of the Michelle Pfeiffer Catwoman or their own version of the Danny DeVito Penguin. I think at this point, it's almost expected. Does it mean it's going to happen? No. Who knows with Hot Toys? But the fact that they're giving us this Bat Missile, I think might be a good indication that they're not done with the Batman Returns line. They might be, but I have a feeling there's more to come. And the reason I say this again too is this came out of nowhere. Like I said, who thought Hot Toys was going to develop another vehicle? And of all the vehicles, who thought it was going to be the Bat Missile? Right? It was on screen for what, a minute or two at that. Right? We see Bruce Wayne or Batman trying to escape, and he kind of ejects the side pods from the Batmobile. The strip in the middle, everything compacts, right? The two-seater becomes a one-seater at that point. Look, it's a, you can argue maybe the scene itself is ridiculous, but it was an interesting scene. You get an interesting look at an alternate version of the Batmobile. And you get this Bat Missile as a result. So I can't fault Hot Toys for the appearance, because this looks pretty good. And it is honestly something that at first I saw it. First of all, I was amazed that Hot Toys is doing it. Then you look at it, and then the question is, do you really need this in your collection? Right? It's such a small piece. And again, compared to the 89, 92 Batmobile in its entirety, this is I feel like this is going to have a much more limited appeal, or it might not, but it's not going to be as appealing as the full vehicle. um, especially when you have it in the fully compact mode, right? I do kind of like this mode where the wheels are still outboard. It does give it a little bit more of a one of those racers that kids used to have, right, in the past, where they put a little wood block with wheels. It reminds me of that a little bit. Uh, but I definitely appreciate it. Um, and I do think it looks a little bit more sleek. I love the detail on this when you look at the pistons and everything. Um, it's an interesting vehicle. It really is. Um, yes, again, the shape, you can make all the fun in the world you want for to make fun of it, because yeah, it looks a little wacky. But the more I see this, the more appealing it becomes in terms of something that I might want to get. Am I going to day one pre-order this? Absolutely not. Again, space constraints, right? It's still a vehicle. You can fit in your Batman. It's still a vehicle that's going to take up a lot of space, right? The internals look great. The engine looks great. The detail work on this looks phenomenal, right? And it looks like they did upsize it. I know a lot of the debate with the 89 was that it was a little undersized. So it looks like Hot Toys did go back and at least update the dimensions for the missile. Does that mean you're going to get an 1889 Batmobile 2.0? Some people seem to think we are. I don't know. I think it depends on how well this does, because then that's another whole thing there, right? Um, Especially since they just re-released the 89 and a bunch of people got that as well. So, look, this is very interesting. And again, I'm just surprised at how this came out of nowhere. And I think if you're going to say anything about Hot Toys this year in particular, it's they are full of surprises, right? Nothing is off limits for Hot Toys at this point. They will surprise you with what you least expect. And the fact that they're going so deep into Batman Returns again by giving you a second alternate vehicle that had a couple of minutes of screen time, pretty impressive. And I think the product you're looking at looks really good here. Um, Look, some of you might want to wait for Jazzing to do theirs. For me, it's too rich for my blood. So what I'm seeing here, though, listen, it's not cheap either. It's 610. That's before taxes and shipping. So maybe with points, I could definitely get it down a little bit and make it a little bit more palatable. But these 6 scale vehicles are expensive. But what Hot Toys is doing here looks pretty good. And again, the more I see it, the more appealing it is. The only thing that stops me a little bit is, one, I still need to get the 89 Batmobile, which is probably what I need to get first, the Hot Toys one. And two, um, it is a big scale item. And when you look at all the figures that you could get and you could fill up in a bookcase or a Maja case, it makes you think, is it really worth getting this? Especially when space is a constraint. But I think it's awesome, and it's another great thing that Hot Toys is doing and jumping into. So, um, let's see what else I have for you guys, because we're not done. Let's see. I think that was it for Hot Toys and for um no, actually there's one more thing for Hot Toys, and that is this guy, right? So Savage Opress. I didn't get a chance to discuss the figure. I'll tell you right now, I thought it looked fantastic. The fact that Darth Maul is such an iconic character, and not knowing anything about Clone Wars, right? Other than and I have to give credit to William Cote, who kind of filled us in a little bit on the history of Savage. So I think they're brothers. If I'm wrong, again, correct me. Look, the scale on this guy is fantastic. He towers over Darth Maul, um, and I thought Darth Maul was a great looking character. And I do like the fact that you get such an amazing looking sculpt, right? If you kind of look in closer, and you get this alternate look where you can create cut off horns to make him look a little bit more battle damage, and you can swap out the arms to get this mechanical arm. Now, what's surprising to me is how quickly Hot Toys made some of these updates. So the first thing they did was they added this wrap, and it's a plastic wrap. It's not fabric, but they added it to the arm to give it a little bit more. I don't know if it's screen accuracy, but it looks good. So I'm not gonna knock them on that. And then they have this thing, the sharper teeth with updated paint application. I don't know that anybody was complaining about this, but kudos to Hot Toys for stepping up their game and doing something extra, right? On a figure that I think most people, if you go on the groups, if you read any of the boards or listen to any of the videos, everybody kind of loved this figure. I don't think there was one naysayer to it. There were people that I think were going to pass on it, but I think people in general agreed that this was a beautiful piece. So the fact that they already updated that, kudos to Hot Toys. But look, the updates are very subtle. I think the arm one is probably the biggest one, but um, it's great to see Hot Toys responding to that and consistently trying to improve their figures. And I think we've seen that a lot with figures from the Mantis that nobody expected to be updated, to Rocket Raccoon, which also nobody expected to be updated, to the Obi-Wan, which people did expect to be updated. So Hot Toys has definitely stepped up their game a little bit, and they've continued that, which I think is still making them the premier company when it comes to six scale collecting. But they're not the only company when it comes to six scale. So I do want to go into um, one is going to be an older announcement, but the other one is another one that came kind of a little bit out of nowhere. So let's get into the older one, which is Damn Toys' military figure. So Damn Toys, if you've been in this hobby, Damn Toys has created their own little niche market, right? They don't compete with Hot Toys. They don't compete with anybody else. They do their own thing, right? They're heavily invested in six scale military figures. And I think with Soldier Story dropping out, and Soldier Story is coming back a little bit, but there was a time where they just disappeared after releasing tons of great releases and figures. And Damn Toys definitely stepped up into that spot. And now you've got other players coming in, right? Easy and Simple comes into play. And look, I have a couple of their figures. They're great, but Damn Toys is definitely, from a quality perspective, um, definitely feels like a step up from Easy and Simple. So if you're comparing them, right, and obviously the price hike is different. Damn Toys is more expensive than Easy and Simple. Easy and Simple is basically third party. But look, what you're getting here is the Dev Grew, right, Geronimo figure from Operation Neptune Spear, which was right, the hunt for Bin Laden from and that was kind of seen in that movie Zero Dark 30, and obviously based on real life events. So you're getting another version of that SEAL team figure. Now, haven't picked up any of those. There was a time I was trying to stay away from these, but look at how good this figure looks, right? First of all, it's got the quad MVGs. I know most figures are coming with them now. Even the Easy and Simple Call of Duty ones all have quad MVGs that are a little more unique. But the detail on this, right? The detail on the helmet, on the gear, right? You can already see two different versions. You've got the full camo look, and then this one actually has slightly different night vision goggles, and then you've got this one with a sort of more olive green jacket, right? And I do like the flags that are the more green special operations flags, and I like the fact that even the rifle is fully camoed up. So it's a beautiful looking figure. The helmet is amazing on these. I can tell you from some of the other Damn Toys helmets, these are delicate, but Damn Toys does make them a little bit more sturdy than like Easy and Simple. So if you're ever interested in collecting a military figure and are looking for a first one to get, I would highly recommend you getting Damn Toys. If there's an opportunity, they are just phenomenal, and the detail work on the weapons. Um, I've said this before. I love Hot Toys. Hot Toys is still the top dog, I think, in the six scale world. But there are companies that do some things better than them, and I think Damn Toys is one of them when it comes to weapons. We've seen that with like the Black Widow guns and everything. The guns you get with the pistols and the rifles you get with Damn Toys are top notch, bar none. Right? That's why even when Inart came out with the Joker and people were super excited about the diecast weapons, um, that had somebody said, "Oh look, the Glock I think has like the information stamped and etched on the side. It's so amazing." Well, if you've collected any of these figures, they do that, and they've been doing that for a long time. So that's why the in-art kind of craze over at least the accessories for me wasn't. It was like, yes, it looks cool, but it wasn't that much because you've got companies like Damn Toys doing some fantastic things. And this DevGru guy, again, if you are a military collector, this looks fantastic, right? Not the most complicated of kits, right? You're not looking at one of those older other sets that they did that has just tons of gear. This is a much more straightforward operational kit. I like the silencer on the suppressor on the pistol, right? And you can kind of see the etchings on the side too, just to show you that level of detail. Helmet looks great. Look, the sculpts look fine as well. I don't know. Sometimes they'll try to base them on actors or somebody else. I don't know if that's the case, but look, this looks really decent as well. Although it's going to be covered by the helmet and the night vision more often than not. Look, the grenade launcher looks fantastic. You can actually fit the grenades into the launcher, and the rifle with the camo and the slots to show how many rounds are there. The night vision, I'm pretty sure this pivots as well. The scope, so just tons of great stuff. The patches, so you can customize it a little bit. Damn Toys, just very, very impressive. And if you're looking for a company um, to branch out from, look, I know InArt is there. There are other companies. If you get a chance to pick up a Damn Toys figure, I think you'll be very impressed with what you're getting because they are really phenomenal. But that's not the only thing we got from Damn Toys. And this was another surprise to me um, because one, it's a different version of the character. And um, I haven't quite seen her this way. So from Ghost in the Shell, right? And I forget her name. I think it's Colonel something. Um, I watched the original anime, so this is a very different look. Um, but again, this is where Damn Toys comes in and kind of surprises you with the unexpected, which is I never expected that they do this version of Motoko. Oh, sorry, I don't know actually. I don't even know if this is the same character. Somebody who knows Ghost in the Shell will have to fill me in because I'm unfamiliar. Other than that original anime that I watched years ago, I don't know if there have been updates. I think there have been, so I don't know which version of the character or which character this is. But look, I got to give credit to Damn Toys. They're coming out with again something unexpected, right? The sculpt looks very animated, which is to be expected. I like the jacket with the orange lining and the purple. That looks pretty cool. It's kind of a simpler figure, to be honest. The clothing, nothing crazy. The sculpt is very animated, so even the eyes, right? Usually with the eyes, you're looking for realism. Here, they're that very animated look, which I think works for this particular figure. I do like the weaponry. I'm sure that's from the show as well, or from the movie that whatever this is based off of. Um, Look, some of you might say it's a little bit of a boring figure, and it is. It's very simple. I do like the alternate looks. It's one of those that is a little bizarre because it's out of nowhere. I don't know enough about it. This one goes like with the Arcane that we just looked at, the Jinx. It's one of those that you look at and immediately start thinking that would actually look pretty cool in the collection. So it's one of those. Do I even want to start jumping into something like this, right? Do I want to get that Jinx and then say, well, since I have that figure now, I can get something like this? We also previously looked at the other Monster Hunter figures they had, which also had that animated look that could fit in. So see, as a collector, you're starting to say, well, if I get that figure, that Jinx, and then I get this Ghost in the Shell figure, then I get those other Damn Toys figures. I have a collection that starts to take form, right? You might argue that's kind of allowing you to enable yourself to buy more of these. But look, it is what it is. I just thought it was a very interesting release. And this is why I like Damn Toys. They do their own thing, right? They march to the beat of their own drum. Um, not to just keep on saying, common sayings, but they're their own thing. They don't march into other companies, right? Lanes. They're not coming out here saying, you know what, let me try my own Keith Ledger Joker. They're doing their own military figures, right? They're still doing the Poker Kingdom figures, which thank God, I love that line. They're doing this. And not only that, right? They've got a bunch of other figures that I'm not even covering because they're 12 scale that are very unique and very artistic. So Damn Toys is a company that I like. I like to see what they're doing because it doesn't mean everything's necessarily going to appeal to you, but they're doing a lot of original things that I think stand out. So this is a figure that I'm not sure yet. I could order and I might pass, but we'll see. I think if I do get the Jinx figure from Hot Toys, this one might be an easier get. I am curious if any of you know where this is from. Um, Let me know because I would be interested in checking out the anime. The original Ghost in the Shell, I think everybody considers one of those classics. And I watched it a long time ago. I thought it was really good. I don't know where the story progressed from that point. Obviously, There was that Ghost in the Shell with Scarlett Johansson. That was the live action, which look, I didn't think was as horrible as people made it out to be, but I know a lot of people criticized it. So I don't know where this particular figure lands in the continuity of that story. If it's a remake, if it's just a continuation, it could be a little convoluted. But let me know. I'm very curious in seeing what this is from. And now, um, let's see. Let's finish up with figures first. So because I'm already going long and I don't want to necessarily bore you guys too much. Although I'm sure I am, but you know what? Let's get into this guy. 3-0. I think a lot of you might already have this in hand. Now, this was limited to, I think, 1,500 or 1,600. It might be a smaller number. Sideshow already has it and they're shipping it. It's expensive. This is the premium version of Optimus Prime. And it's based on his appearance in Bumblebee, but also not, right. It's the shattered glass version, which is essentially the evil version of Optimus Prime. Um, Look, 3-0's been doing a ton of these Transformers figures, and they look fantastic. They look amazing. The level of detail on these is just incredible, and that's their DLX line. This is the premium line. So, right, this stands 19 inches tall, so it's a big figure. 140 points of articulation, and just look at the detail work on the face, right, with the light up features. I don't know if this is USB, which is the only annoying part. Um, but you've got a ton of detail. It almost gets lost in everything that you have. As far as accessories, it's not much, but I mean, this is like an engineering feat right here. We give a lot of credit to Hot Toys, as we should, for their Iron Man figures and their suited figures. But this Transformers line, and look, yes, it's a Transformer that doesn't transform. 100%. I will give you that. But if you're looking for screen accuracy, although this is a different purple version of him, right? But if you're looking for something that just looks detailed and looks amazing in the collection, this looks pretty phenomenal, right? The fact that he's got the big blaster, right? The fact that it's that truck look as well, from the movie, from Bumblebee, where they kind of launched into the more classic look. It just looks phenomenal. It's just a lot of money, and part of me is wondering if I should try to go back and get the classic looking version. I know this is extremely limited. So I've asked the question before. I've got a bunch of friends in the community who have told me this is great, right? 3-0 Transformers are fantastic. If any of you have taken a crack at this, let me know your thoughts, because I'm very curious to see what you thought about it in hand, because in the pictures, it just mind blown, right? How good it looks. And this is something that I don't mind, right? Some of the other ones, I'll tell you, I have to see where it fits in the collection. This is a Transformer figure that by itself is going to look fantastic. And the only thing is, it might open the doors to me getting more of these, but cross that bridge again when we come to it. It looks awesome. I actually like the purple. I know it's the evil version of him. So you're not going with the traditional red and blue, but it still looks phenomenal. So I'm curious if you have it, and this is more of a public service for myself. If you have it, just let me know your thoughts on this one, because look, now might be the time to do it. First of all, it's limited. Sideshow still has them in stock, so I can get them, and I do have a bunch of points, so I can get them for a discount. And on top of that, right, if I get this one, I think I can get the Mandalorian, the Chrome version, which would be my first Mando figure. So, there's definitely something appealing there. I could wait it out to see what else they throw in to this deal, because I know they're going to be switching it until, is it through Black Friday? I think it's through December that they're going to be doing it. So I might be curious to see if they're going to put a Marvel figure. Right now, it's been heavily Star Wars, and I'll be honest, I'm still going to pick up some Star Wars figures, but with everything that's coming out right now, you could see it, right? And we're going to talk about that before we close tonight. The movies that are coming up from Marvel, I have an expectation that we're going to be getting a ton of figures. So it's almost like my focus has to kind of get realigned to my core collection, which is Marvel. But a figure like this is a one-off. So again, very curious to get it, and there are definitely some benefits to getting it. But now, to end on figures, let's end on a couple of third parties. And this is where this is just an interesting one. Let's start with the better one. So SW Toys is doing a Jill Valentine in her Stars uniform. Look, I do pick up a lot of third party figures. I don't pick up every third party figure, contrary to popular belief. But I do pick up some because I do feel like third party, when they step in, they'll give you figures that you haven't gotten before or that you need to complete a collection, right? Toys Era for a while had been that figure, right? They did the John Walker cap, they did the Zemo, which Hot Toys, still have no idea why Hot Toys didn't do those, but they didn't do them. So in steps third party, right? We also got Adam Warlock from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, right? Hot Toys didn't do him either. I've got him from a third party. Not the best figure, right? You have to expect that with third party. They're not the best figures, um, but they do fill in gaps. So now Resident Evil. I like Resident Evil a lot. Um, I've got a lot of the figures already from Hot Toys. They're older, so they're definitely dated a little bit. But because they had that computer kind of animated look, um, they're not as dated as some of the more human-looking, realistic sculpts. But third parties definitely stepping into this game a lot, right? We've seen a ton of Ada Wongs. We've seen a couple of Leon Kennedys. We've seen a bunch of other characters, right, from the franchise. So there's still very much a popularity there. And now SW Toys is stepping in with a Jill Valentine with rooted hair. So look, even third parties getting into the rooted game right now. Look, this figure doesn't look bad at all. Very basic figure. It's a T-shirt. It's just a sculpt, right? You can remove the what is it the hat? You can remove it, right? She's got the harness. She's got the the guns. Um, some of those little nods to the video game with the plant collecting. Very basic figure, right? The base too. Look, I think this is interesting that you can hide the peg. Even third parties getting into that a little bit. As far as accessories, right? The revolver, the pistol, the grenade launcher, right? You do get some really decent elements here for this if you're looking to fill in that gap in your Resident Evil collection. It's just a very basic figure. And SW Toys is decent, right? I haven't been disappointed with theirs. They're not the best. I don't know, again, because this is straight hair, it might be easier to get right. I don't know that I'd use the hat. It looks a little dorky, to be honest, but the accessories look pretty awesome. So this is one of those third parties that's an if, maybe, right? And again, with just everything coming out, goes to the bottom of the list. But the reason I wanted to bring this in is, as much as I champion, right, third party, sometimes you have to kind of just say no. And not to be too critical, but this is another Jill Valentine, right? That's coming from a company I've never heard, Rotator. Um, you can already see the difference, right? The sculpt here is just the Toys one just looks so much better. Um, Look, I don't know who this company is. Even the logo and the decal on the T-shirt, not the best. The fit on the tailoring, not good at all. I mean, look, and accessories, it's light. You get the gun, you get a shotgun, you get the knife, and that's pretty much it. So, and that sculpt just doesn't look good. It does have rolling eyes, which is interesting. Um, so kudos to this company for doing that. Rolling eyes and rooted hair, that's the future, right? Everybody's doing those at this point. But look, this is where I would tell you, unless you were really a big fan of the character and like this look, there's clearly a superior product out there. So don't jump at the first third party company you're seeing, because there are others out there that are doing something a little bit better. And this one just, especially when you have two of these figures, because they tend to come in pairs. This one isn't one where I tell you, oh, either one is going to be fine. This one just feels like the SW Toys one is going to be better, but there is another one out there. Oh, and actually, before we leave and go into the last topic that I want to touch on, I think there is one other one that I want to go over with you guys, which is, let's see if I can find him. Actually, there are two things. Hitman, right? From the video game. So we're seeing a lot of third-party video games. Master Team has been one of those companies that's been leaning heavily into the video game market and giving you a lot of Resident Evil figures in particular. They're jumping into another line here. Now, look, this is just a guy in a suit. Let's be honest. Even the sculpt, I think you get two alternates. But it's a bald guy, right? And he's got the barcode in the back of the head. I'm trying to find the picture for that, which is probably what makes him most distinctive there, right? So let's zoom in here a little bit. Um, right, so that barcode obviously very distinctive from the video game. Look, you get the angry face and you get the calm looking face. I think they both look fine. As far as weapons, you do get that sniper rifle that I think a lot of us recognize from the game. A ton of suppressed pistols as well, fire effects, and then you get those funky accessories that obviously go well with him, right? The wire, the piano wire, the disguise, the rubber ducky, the suitcase. Very simple figure. Very simple, but I got to give credit again to these third party companies that are stepping in. They're doing figures that nobody else is doing. Look, tailoring on this, the suit looks a little baggy, not gonna lie. The tie also, it looks a little loose here. My expectation is that when you get this figure in hand, it's probably going to be a little more downgraded than this. So proceed with caution. But I do, again, just want to bring that up because Master Team is a company that's coming in and doing figures that from video game properties in particular that nobody else is touching. So definitely another cool thing. And the last one I wanted to touch on, I told you I'm going to try to make sure these videos aren't as long in the future. But I did want to touch on this because I do have that Harry Potter in art figure, the deluxe. So this company here, Mojang Toys, is doing the platform 9 3/4 diorama. Um, it looks pretty good actually. It's got the Harry Potter name on the side, right? It's got the little placard so that you can actually either create different looks, and I think this is pretty impressive actually. You've got the train, you've got the school. Um, it's obviously meant to be a companion piece to the end art. Um, and it actually looks pretty decent. And then you've got obviously some um, suitcases, although this notched one I guess is just to fit it into the cart in some way or another. It looks fine. It looks great. Oh, this is to create that look of him disappearing into the portal that leads to the platform. I think that's actually fantastic. That's a really nice touch. The thing is, and you can see the in art figure there. The thing is, it's 200 and I have the price jotted down. I think it's $280. $280 for a diorama is a lot, especially when the figure itself was an extremely expensive price. So while it's cool and it's something I'd like to have, is it really necessary? Especially you already get the diorama piece and you've got the other three kids that are going to have the in art dioramas that are going to go together. Look, stuff like this is very interesting to me. Um, Sometimes I'm like, all right, it's just a rock, right? We've all made fun of the in art rock at this point, but something like this has a little bit more thought into it. That's pretty interesting, and I do give credit to this company. Now the price is a little high for me. What you get is pretty interesting though. The diorama piece, especially this effect, is pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. So listen, if you do have that and are interested in recreating that scene, there's another option for you here. Um, just to be aware. For me, I think this might be a little too rich for my blood. And again, space becomes a constraint. As cool as it looks, right? Where am I going to fit this? I already have to fit the diorama for the standard, right? And unless I had another Harry Potter figure, which I don't need that many of them, right? I have one, and I have the Quidditch version from Kojin Works coming at some point. I don't need another one. So very cool. Just thought I'd flag that if any of you are interested in that. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much it when it comes to six scale products. Now, the last thing I want to end on is kind of a little discussion on upcoming figures. It's just pure conjecture. So we'll play this in the background, and we'll start with this one. And let me mute this. Make sure it's muted. Yeah. So look, as it plays in the background, obviously this is one of those movies that I'm very excited for, and I'm definitely expecting at this point. So, Captain America and Brave New World. So, look, um, they're teasing a bunch of these figures already. Or not. We've seen Marvel Legends versions of these figures. We've seen Marvel Legends figures of the Red Hulk. We've seen Marvel Legends versions of Anthony Mackie's Captain America, and I think even the Falcon at this point. So would I expect figures from this line? Absolutely, right? I think at the very least we're going to get three, and I'm going to pause this as we go. because obviously I think there's a lot of high expectations for these movies. They are doing some reshoots at this point, um, which some people might be a little hesitant about, but I'm actually pretty excited about because I think it means that they're trying to make it the best movie it can be. Now, look, this scene, I think we're definitely getting this Captain America suit, right? And I think we're getting this suit as well. Hold on, let me pause. I would not be surprised to get another version of this as a movie promo version from Hot Toys with the wings and with the helmet. I think the helmet's what's going to make that figure, right? And then I have an expectation that we're also going to get. Um, you can see the Falcon right there. I think we're going to get that alternate Falcon, which is right here. I think we're going to get that to be a companion figure to go with Captain America. And not only are we going to get that white suit version, we see during the final fight, which is what I'm assuming is the final fight with the Red Hulk, that Anthony Mackie wears a different suit, a blue suit. So I'm expecting that one as well. And then the final expectation, and I think we're all as collectors extremely excited about that, is the possibility of a Red Hulk. Um, if they don't do a Red Hulk, I would be shocked. Right, we've already gotten a bunch of Hulk figures, right? Smart Hulk, different versions of him. Red Hulk, we've got She-Hulk. I think Red Hulk is a given at this point. So, look, if this movie is the hit that I expect it to be, and I maybe have higher expectations than I should, but I really think that Hot Toys, if this is a hit, is going to give us a couple of figures from this. Definitely Captain America. Obviously, you're going to get the main character from his own movie. And then I think it's this guy. I think Red Hulk, a Harrison Ford version of Red Hulk, is a given, 100%. So I think that's a must. So again, very excited look at that movie, but that's not the only one, and and that's why I told you kind of a little bit that I'm. Let me make sure again this is muted before we play it. Thunderbolts is the other one that's coming out. So look, Thunderbolts is one of those movies that I think is going to depend. How many figures we get from Hot Toys is going to entirely depend on how good the movie actually is. If the movie is a flop, right, I would still expect a couple of figures from Hot Toys, right? I think everybody says that Yelena is the primary character, the main character. So I would expect a Yelena 2.0, right? Hot Toys already done her, right? And then what other characters would they do that people would want? Looking at the characters, and actually let me see if I can get us to there's a scene where they're all standing together, which is I think the good point of discussion. Let's say I think it might be this one where we're seeing the entire group together. There you go. So look, Yelena I think is a given, 100%. I think this is her movie, from what I'm hearing. Bucky, it depends on his role in the movie. They've already done him, right? They've done him a ton of times, so it might be an easy cash grab to do a Bucky. I think what we're all expecting at some point is an artisan Winter Soldier version of Bucky, right? That figure, I have it. It's a great figure, lots of great accessories. The jacket's deteriorating, right? A rooted hair would be something that I think a lot of people would like to see with that figure. So this one looks much more plain, right? They all look much simpler, much more plain. So would we get a Bucky? Maybe. I think a U.S. agent is a figure that a lot of us want, right? I've wanted him. I'm glad Toys R Us stepped in and actually did that figure because it wasn't that bad. And then Red Guardian, Hot Toys teased him from the Black Widow movie, never released him, which I think was a shame because that was a great looking character. He's got a different looking suit here. So I definitely like to pick him up. Again, I think how many we get depends on what, you know, we get from the movie. Obviously, you've got a new version of Ghost and a new version of Taskmaster. These would probably be the lowest ones on the radar at this point, compared to the other ones. But again, if the movie's a huge hit, Hot Toys could easily give us the whole team. And at least early word of mouth I'm hearing is that the test screenings have actually gone better than had been anticipated, and that we're seeing, again, take it with a grain of salt. It's just from people that have voiced some opinions that it's actually more in line with Winter Soldier. So you're going to get two movies back to back that might be a little bit more aligned to that great classic Captain America movie. If they're not, then I think it's going to be a disappointment. But there's a possibility that we're going to get a lot of figures from these movies. And that's not even including the shows that are coming out, right? So there's a lot on the horizon to consider. So look, just wanted to end on that. Again, hopefully this will continue. Obviously, this week is Thanksgiving, so we'll see what gets announced. But new drop date for these news videos and kind of these news reviews will be on Mondays. Um, and other than that, we'll continue to drop some reviews, and I might add another video, but I'll see on that depending on when I get the cameras and everything. But as far as next week, this video is going up today. I do have the Ripley review going up as well, and then I am trying to wrap up the Deadpool review as well. So far, both figures great. The Ripley has some issues with her. Obviously, third party comes into play, and then not only that, right? I still have to do the Star Lord review. I still have to put together the Bravo 6 Captain Price from Easy and Simple, and then Balin and Tony Stark, the Avengers suit up version, are on their way to me. So lots of figures. Oh, and Lieutenant Savick from XO6 from the Wrath of Khan. Very excited to get that one in hand as well. So it's going to be a busy time. So we'll see what we drop, and then hopefully you'll see me on stream with Fabs Figures um, tomorrow. So that's pretty much it. So again, look, this is kind of a relaunch of the news series. So we'll see. Hopefully, I can keep up with it. And again, camera will be improved. Some changes will be made, and again, I'll try to keep them a little bit shorter going forward. But for now, I appreciate you guys watching a little bit, and we'll touch base on the next video.